Republican Senator James Lankford of Oklahoma. He serves on the Senate Intelligence Committee and the Senate Homeland Security Committee. Senator, thanks so much for joining us. You've expressed support for the Dreamers, saying that Americans should not hold children legally accountable for their parents' actions. Do you support a deal with Democrats on Dreamers that doesn't include funding for a border wall?
Yeah, I would actually. We would have to work on the definition. Senator Tillis and I have worked for weeks on trying to get an alternative to the DREAM Act that does deal with the kids that are in the DACA situation. I've been very clear for years with people that the DREAM Act is not going to pass, but it doesn't solve the problem to just ignore the issue on these kids that are in DACA. These individuals are literally in limbo, people without a country. We have to be able to resolve this. And as the president mentioned this morning, many of these kids are graduated from school, they've got jobs, they're very engaged, they're productive members of the society. They are here and should be here. We have to be able to resolve this legislatively. Now, as far as the issue of not having a border wall, that doesn't surprise me, quite frankly, because I know logistics. I serve on the Homeland Security Committee. The Department of Homeland Security has yet to be able to explain to the Appropriations Committee or our committee exactly what the wall would look like, where they would put it exactly, how it would be constructed, the final cost of it. All those things are still up in the air. And so until they can resolve those things, we shouldn't have a border wall funding issue. They need to be resolved what they're asking for so Congress will know what they're actually funding. So we're not ready for that at this point. We are ready to be able to deal with DACA. We are ready to be able to deal with lots of other issues of border security. We've got to be able to establish how do we deal with the parameters and prevent us from future immigration coming in the country illegally. We've got to be able to stem that flow. So all those are issues that I think we are ready to deal with and should.
You say that the DREAM Act can't pass. And you and Senator Tom Tillis of North Carolina, a fellow Republican, have an alternative. How is your bill different?
Well, we're not working through the details yet. We're working through our own conference. I would tell you, he and I have worked on it for a while. He's on the Judiciary Committee. I'm on the Homeland Security Committee, and so we're bringing that expertise to it. We're working with our colleagues, both Republican and Democrat, to be able to get a good bipartisan agreement that we feel like would actually pass and we could actually get into law. We've also worked with the White House. I've personally spoken to the president about this and talked through concept. We continue to be able to work through White House conversations to make sure that we're on the same page before we move forward on this.
Trump supporter Sean Hannity said that this move by President Trump could be political suicide, supporting some sort of legal status for the Dreamers. Do you agree?
I don't, actually. The vast majority of people I talk to, regardless of party or people that don't really connect with a party, want this to be resolved. And this is one of those issues that for a very long time has hung out there. And until this is resolved, you can't move on to a lot of other issues. So these kids and these individuals in my state, there are 7,000 of them, need to have some kind of resolution. What President Obama did to them was put them in a 2-year limbo every year, exposing them and their parents to real issues and real risk on deportation. They were aware of that when they got into the program. Now they're in the program. What President Trump has done is said within the next 6 months, we need to solve this legislatively.
Trump cutting deals with Pelosi and Schumer is what people like Ted Cruz warned Republican voters about, that President Trump just wants to make deals. He's not particularly wed to conservative ideology. And in fact, in the past, he's been a Democrat and he gave Senator Schumer campaign contributions. Does that bother you at all?
It doesn't, based on the season that we're in. The first 7 months, really, of the legislature, we were dealing with Congressional Review Acts. Those all passed with 51. We're dealing with the Supreme Court nominee that passes with 51. We're dealing with health care, should pass with 51. Obviously, we didn't get that done. Those are all things that you can do with 51. Once we get past that, everything has to be 60. So this is a season to be able to turn the page and to say, okay, we've been on the partisan side of it, moving as much as we can. Now we need to be able to move to the bipartisan side, because all the rest of the legislation in the Senate takes 60 votes. So that's 52 Republicans plus at least 8 Democrats. It will require negotiations across party lines. And quite frankly, was one of the frustrations that we had under President Obama, was he was so focused on his pen and the phone and doing executive action, we didn't have the opportunity to really be able to sit down with the president and try to find the way to be able to get deals. So it doesn't bother me for the president to sit down with Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi. It's entirely appropriate for a president to do. Would have been good for President Obama to be able to do with our leadership and Republican leadership. Obviously, it didn't happen, but it needs to happen as part of governing.
Senator Lankford, stick around. We've got much more to talk about, including Russian interference in the 2016 election. Don't go anywhere. The Republican Senator James Lankford of Oklahoma, he serves on the Senate Intelligence and Homeland Security Committees. Senator, Facebook sold ad space to Russians last year, and much of that was used to boost or spread fake news attacking Hillary Clinton. Now, we have no idea how this affected the election, but it happened. How serious a problem is this, and what do you think should be done to combat it, if anything?
Yeah, it is incredibly serious. It's one of the issues that Facebook is trying to be able to walk through the process of how do they handle this in the future. It wasn't just fake news to attack Hillary Clinton, it was fake news to attack everything. It was the most divisive issues that they could possibly find in the American culture, and they would spread it as fast and as far as they possibly could. So Facebook has been very outspoken to be able to talk about this as an issue. They've started the process on it. We need to be able to continue the process dealing with Facebook and to try to figure out how to be able to resolve this. The government does not need to be in the business of trying to edit social media or edit any media of any type. But Facebook's aware that they also don't want their platform to be used for situations like this. They have already dealt with situations like this in Europe on the Facebook platforms there as the Russians are attacking the French elections or the German elections or other things. So they're not new to this, but they're new to dealing this with the American version of Facebook, and so we've got to be able to help them resolve this, and they've got to be able to take the lead on their own platform.
Do you think Facebook should be held accountable? In other words, should the Intelligence Committee, which you're a member of, should they call them, the executives from Facebook, to testify? Should they produce the ads and all information and have complete transparency about their role in the Russians trying to interfere in the election?
Yeah, let me be clear on this. I don't think that Facebook was complicit in trying to help the Russians. I just think they weren't attentive to something that they should have been attentive to, and they can set up algorithms to be able to pick up and detect and then determine what they're going to do. I think it is entirely appropriate to be able to continue to visit with the Intelligence Committee and maybe even in a public setting to do that and to be able to get the word out. Here's what we've seen, here's what happened, here's what we're doing as a responsible actor to be able to make sure that our platform is not used for nefarious means in the future. But again, that should be them taking the lead on that. We can be a participant in that and to encourage it. I think the American people would encourage that. But we do not need to have government trying to step into a social media platform and determining for them what's appropriate content and what's not appropriate content.
All right, Senator James Lankford of Oklahoma, great to see you. Thanks for being here.
It's good to see you again.